Hey there, pop culture enthusiasts. My name is Mira, and welcome back to Nina Talks, the best source for discussions on many of the most iconic entries into 21st century popular media. If you want to keep tabs on new uploads, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to stay in the know about your favorite subjects in pop culture. Now, let's get on with today's topic. There's nary a name in animation history more well known than Netflix's adult animated series Bojack Horseman. The main character is Bojack, Horseman, obviously. He is, of course, a horse, but also a washed-up celebrity of the classic 90s sitcom scene. His one and only big hit was a sitcom called Horsin' Around, and he's been stabled ever since. Despite the outward ridiculousness of the show, Bojack Horseman has garnered numerous accolades for the depth of storytelling and content covered throughout its 6 seasons. Delving into topics such as addiction, depression, self-loathing, abuse, and more, Bojack Horseman is a prime example of one of today's most insightful works of popular media. Behind all of these themes, there is one that prevails as the backbone behind many of Bojack's destructive tendencies, and seems to be a cut-and-dry explanation for them: his childhood and upbringing. While seemingly a simple catalyst to point a finger at, Bojack's parents, especially his mother Beatrice, didn't exactly have a healthy childhood themselves. This sparks the question: are Bojack's tendencies the result of his upbringing or something brought about by his own decisions? Let's delve into this question by first examining Beatrice, Bojack's mother. In seasons 1 to 3, we often see flashbacks of Beatrice and Bojack's interactions, and they are less than pleasant.
Go out there.
I can't.
Can't? Lives in a house on Won't Street. You will not embarrass me in front of the entire supper club. I told them you were going to sing the lollipop song.
But I don't feel like singing.
Nobody gives a damn what you feel. You've got an audience out there, and they want to hear you sing. Now, you want your mommy to love you. You go out there, and you do the only thing you're good for, which is singing the goddamn lollipop song.
In this clip from Season 1, Episode 11, we hear Beatrice instilling harmful ideologies in a young, impressionable Bojack. In this particular scene, the harsh lesson he learns is that performance is the only way to garner love. In her eyes, Bojack's worth was directly tied to his usefulness through acting. In this case, Beatrice taught her son that the only way he would gain her love would be to put on a performance that made up for the damage he had supposedly caused her to endure.
You're Bojack Horseman. There's no cure for that.
While undoubtedly a cruel thing to say to a child, this sentiment didn't come from nowhere. Beatrice was brought up in the 1930s to 40s, a time when women were pressured to act in certain ways in order to fit into the restrictive social norms of the time. When Beatrice's brother Crackerjack was killed in World War II, her mother, Honey Sugarman, fell into a deep depression. Rather than offer support or opt for any viable solutions, Beatrice's father had his wife lobotomized. This act irreparably traumatized Beatrice from a very young age, and she learned the implied lesson that acting in a way that wasn't beneficial to the people around her would end up harming her in the long run.
It's Beatrice.
Yes, that's right. What a pretty girl.
What did they do to you?
Oh, hush. It's okay. I'm better now.
I don't understand.
Love does things to a person. Terrible things. Beatrice, promise me you'll never love anyone as much as I loved Crackerjack.
I promise I won't.
Why?
It is with this lesson in mind that Beatrice forces Bojack to perform at her party. After all, weren't children supposed to act in ways that directly made their parents' lives easier? This context is reminiscent of an article I read about parental socialization of emotion. According to the article, parents choosing to respond to a child's negative emotional expression with negative self-focused reactions end up more or less telling the child that their emotions aren't legitimate, which is not a message you want to send your child if you expect them to take care of you in your sunset years. From the same article, constant punishment and abuse result in low levels of adult constructive coping and high levels of avoidant coping. Bojack exemplifies these characteristics to a T, frequently resorting to alcohol and drugs as a coping mechanism, as well as exhibiting depressive behavior. Even if you logically know that their opinion isn't worth wanting, being unable to gain any sort of positive acknowledgement from one's parental figures is a wound that is exceptionally good at staying open.
Your son. All I had was you.
Another common theme we see throughout the series is the use of guilt throughout the childhoods of both Bojack and Beatrice.
You know, I was beautiful before I got pregnant.
I know.
You ruined me, Bojack.
I know.
You better grow up to be something great, to make up for all the damage you've done.
I will.
In this scene, we can see Beatrice parenting a young, impressionable Bojack. Of course, this is very much not a recommended way to talk to one's child. One person who would vehemently deny the use of guilt in parenting is Dr. Peter Stearns, a social psychologist, who writes that guilt could lead to lasting emotional malfunction in children exposed to it throughout parenting. This can very much be seen in Beatrice's childhood and young adulthood.
What were you thinking? Hoofing around the dance floor like a motorized freckle. Did you snap your cap?
You mustn't despise me, darling, please.
And that's before even mentioning poor Beatrice. You aiming to get her killed as well? She's all we got.
Oh, don't be cross with Mother.
Beatrice's father would often blame her grieving mother for being unable to perform her wifely and motherly duties after the death of her son. Even after being lobotomized, the guilt and blame for any mistakes were all put on the shoulders of Honey Sugarman, despite her clear suffering and desperate need for help. It is a theme that Beatrice internalizes, thinking that it was only natural to blame others for one's own shortcomings. She often shifts such blame onto her husband, Butterscotch, who resented Beatrice for tying him down with the son he never wanted, and for never being satisfied with how he provided for her. The ultimate result of both horses' vitriol was a combined force of guilt and trauma that rained down on Bojack. In a vicious cycle, Bojack grew up to blame everything and everyone around him for actions that were undoubtedly his fault. As stated by an article from the Highlander, Bojack thinks of himself in both the worst and best ways and holds a pretentious notion about himself that is unhealthy. It was a tough lesson he learned from his mother. What she used to protect herself then became a tool into which Bojack caused others pain. Luckily, his use of this tactic does not go unheeded.
I know I screwed up. I don't know why.
Great. Of course. Here it comes. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep doing shitty things and then feel bad about yourself like that makes it okay. You need to be better.
Stearns states that adults who had been made to feel guilty as children could be infected with feelings they could not easily recognize and therefore not govern. In this case, we see Bojack both recognize his own faults and willfully ignore them in favor of living the way he grew up, making mistakes and blaming others. We even see him pass on these faults to other people, those who would then go on to internalize this lesson and continue the cycle of abuse.
Rolling. Sound speed. The most important thing is you gotta give the people what they want. Even if it kills you. Even if it empties you out until there's nothing left to empty. No matter what happens, no matter how much it hurts, you don't stop dancing and you don't stop smiling and you give those people what they want.
In this scene, we see Bojack interacting with fellow sitcom actress Sarah Lynn, whom he met when she was a young child. Sarah Lynn would then go on to indulge in destructive behavior to the likes of Bojack and Beatrice, the lack of support she received from Bojack coupling with her own trauma as a maltreated child actress and unfulfilled ambitions. In this way, we can see the cycle of abuse transfer throughout generations. Throughout Bojack Horseman, the audience is able to experience a journey confronting generational trauma in an incredibly lifelike manner. Even amidst all of the crazy shenanigans Bojack engages in throughout the series, that undercurrent of learned maladaptive behavior remains strong and serves as a believable catalyst for his learned destructive behavior. Even though the audience is inclined to dislike Beatrice, the show gives us the backstory to her own life and all that she went through that resulted in her being the mother she was to Bojack. The most poignant aspect of this portrayal of generational trauma is that neither Beatrice nor Bojack are completely absolved of their faults through their childhood trauma. Both characters eventually face the consequences of their actions. By witnessing the entirety of their characters throughout the run of the show, we are able to both sympathize with their views and accept the repercussions that come their way. Who knew we could feel so much humanity from a pair of animated horses? Thank you for watching this video. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more stellar content. Have a good one!